Today, the NDP leader has a chance to prove that he didn't sell out Canadian workers for his own pension. Now, he famously promised Canadians that he ripped up his coalition with the Liberals, saying they, quote, were too weak, too selfish, and too beholden to corporate interests to fight for people. Now, Conservatives agree, and Canadians want a carbon tax election. So, will the Prime Minister allow the NDP leader to vote for his own words, or did the PM whip the NDP vote to block a carbon tax election?
I'm afraid that question doesn't, again, meet the relevance of the administration of government. I do see the government House leader rising to answer. Colleagues, a couple of things. One, let's make sure that when someone has the floor that no one else is taking the floor. And B, colleagues, I would hate for us to repeat what had gone on Friday. The Honourable Government House Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As you mentioned, there was actually no question for the government there, but if the member opposite wants to talk about pensions, he could talk about the pension of the Leader of the Opposition, who, because he's been here for 2 decades, is estimated at being about $2 million, Mr. Speaker. And if he wants to talk about muzzling of members of Parliament, he should probably pose the question to the leader of his own party, who doesn't like MPs that don't ask the questions that he wants them to ask. In fact, we see all of them around the outskirts of the Conservative area in this House of Commons. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Leeds, Grenville, Thousand Islands and Rideau Lakes.
Well, it looks like this Prime Minister has lost control of everything except his control over the NDP. Now, according to the NDP leader's own words, quote, "You're never going to count on us if you're going to take away the rights of the workers. Never." Now, we've seen that this Prime Minister has done just that, ordering binding arbitration. But the question is, what has this Prime Minister promised to the NDP in exchange for their support for his failing government and his failed carbon tax?
Again, that is not relevant to the administration of government or about the... And the chair will have something to say about this at the end of question period. But I do see that the Honourable Minister was rising on his feet. I don't know if he wants to continue to respond. I see no minister rising. The Honourable Member for Calgary Nose Hill.
Mr. Speaker, every time that there's a ruling about the government on this issue, there's an absolutely material question, which is the Liberal or the NDP say one thing over and over again, and then come in and support the Liberals. So asking what the Liberals have promised the NDP in favor of their support after time and time again, saying all of these things, they keep supporting the government. So what has the government promised the NDP to avoid a carbon tax election?
I'm going to be offering a ruling at the end of question period. Perhaps I wish I could have done it earlier, but I see that the Honourable Minister is rising on her feet to answer. The Honourable Leader of the Government in the House of Commons.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, in response to that member's question that, as I think we all know, doesn't actually have to do with government business, but the member opposite, and in fact most of the Conservative caucus, know a thing or two about saying one thing and doing the opposite. They've been talking about cutting taxes, but at the first opportunity to cut taxes for Canadians, they say no, Mr. Speaker. They talk about, standing up on behalf of their constituents, but when they try to do that, the Leader of the Opposition takes away their ability to pose questions in this place. Mr. Speaker, if they don't repeat the slogans ad nauseum of the Leader of the Opposition, they're simply not allowed to speak. They're pretty good at saying one thing and doing another. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Calgary Nose Hill.
To be very clear, Speaker. The Leader of the NDP has gotten up and railed against the Liberals for the GST measures, against workers, every possible thing. The NDP has said the government is incompetent. They said they can't vote for him. Yet every time there's a confidence motion, the NDP stand up and do what? They vote for the government. So it is the business of this place. How much is it costing Canadians? What has this administration promised the NDP to get them to vote against their leader's own words?
Once again, the Honourable Government House Leader is rising to her feet.
I think the honourable member knows something about railing against a leader, but one question that she might want to ask the leader of her party is why he won't get a security clearance. I believe last week at committee we heard from another Conservative leadership contestant about alleged interference by India in the Conservative leadership race, but the leader of the opposition refuses to get a security clearance to actually learn about what happened. Mr. Speaker, he should put the security interests of Canadians ahead of his own personal interests. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The NDP leader continues to hold the country hostage, playing political hokey-pokey to secure his pension by February. First, he put himself in a coalition agreement with the Liberals, then he took himself out, ripping up the agreement while shaking his fist all about. Now he's put himself back in, taping the agreement together, turning himself around after saying he would vote no confidence. So what deal did the Prime Minister make with the leader of the NDP to secure his vote of confidence, and how much will it cost Canadians?
Find out December 16th. Confidence is directly related to administration. What's it going to cost us?
In the opinion of the chair, this actually question is pertinent to the administration of government. The Honourable Leader of the Government in the House of Commons.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, when it comes to the Conservative members of Parliament, all they can do is say one thing and do another. They're pretending to support workers' rights when in reality it's the Leader of the Opposition who brought forward some of the most draconian anti-worker legislation in this country's history. Mr. Speaker, we're going to continue to stand up for workers right across this country. It's a record we are proud of. It's not something the Conservatives can say that they have ever done. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Barrie-Innisfil.
Words matter. The leader of the NDP said he ripped up his supply and confidence agreement with the Liberals, saying the Liberals are too weak, too selfish, and too beholden to corporate interests to fight for people. Speaking to poor workers before the Liberals violated their right to strike, he said, if there's any vote in Parliament that in any way impacts your rights, I can tell you right now, we'll vote no, whether that vote is a confidence vote or not. So what did the Prime Minister, what deal did he make with the leader of the NDP to secure his vote of confidence, and how much will it cost Canadians?